welcome to each of the witnesses. Judge Gleason, I'd like to start with you. In the past, you've written that in drug trafficking cases, you would consider all of the 3553A factors other than the sentencing guidelines because they're too harsh. If this is the view that you hold today, what is to stop other judges from likewise ignoring the guidelines that you end up producing as too lenient?
Thank you, Senator. No, judges don't ignore the guidelines. They're required to consider them, as I did after Booker was decided in 2005. Every sentence began with a computation of the guidelines. It's true in that Diaz case that from which your question emanates, I expressed the view that the linkage of the guideline ranges to the drug types and quantities that drive the federal drug offense mandatory minimums was, in my view, in that opinion, a policy decision with which I disagreed pursuant to the authority conferred on me by the Supreme Court as a district judge in the Kimbrough case. That was my view in that case. I don't shy away from that. My view is I've got a different role, and if I'm lucky enough with this distinguished panel to be confirmed to the Sentencing Commission, the views of the Sentencing Commission represent the consensus, the vote of a body that's designed to listen to everybody, all the judges, the prosecutors, probation, defenders, all the stakeholders. Take all of those views into account and formulate sentencing policy as an entity, as a bipartisan entity. Do I bring those views with me to the table? Of course. In my view, do they play a role in the decision-making of this commission if I'm fortunate enough to be confirmed? Not really.
So all across the country, Americans are deeply concerned about the rise in crime we're seeing, the rise in murder rates we're seeing, the rise in carjacking rates we're seeing. That rise in crime is a direct result of policies from the radical left to undermine the police, to defund the police, to try to abolish the police, and radical prosecutors who refuse to prosecute violent crime. Just last night, we saw a rather remarkable outcome in that the voters of San Francisco, bright blue, liberal San Francisco, just recalled their district attorney because they got tired of a left-wing DA releasing criminals over and over and over again. When you've gone too far left for San Francisco, that's a pretty good sign that you have lost sight of the American people. Now, on the bench, you have been very critical of long periods of incarceration for drug traffickers. Before this committee, are you prepared to acknowledge the extraordinary harm that drug traffickers do to communities around the country, and especially in my home state of Texas, which is facing a completely unprecedented border crisis because the Biden administration refuses to enforce our laws?
Of course I'm willing to acknowledge the extraordinary harm drug trafficking does in your communities in Texas, in ours, in New York. It is a deadly serious crime. The last thing it is, Senator Cruz, is a victimless crime. There are victims all over the lot. It's a scourge of some of our communities in New York. I'm with you completely on the seriousness of that as a federal felony.
Several years ago, you argued that the United States criminal justice system is disproportionately harsh compared to other developed countries. As a commissioner, would it be your objective to make our criminal justice system more lenient, less harsh, more reflective of the criminal justice systems of other nations that you have pointed to as being more lenient?
No, that's not my goal. coming into this as a hopeful, confirmed nominee to the Sentencing Commission. My goal is to do what this body created the commission to do, which is to formulate, to the degree that the commission formulates policy, much of the criminal justice policy emanates from this body, from the Senate, from the Congress. But to the degree that the commission itself formulates sentencing policy, it should be driven by advancements of human knowledge as they relate to criminal justice, data, collaboration, listening as the commission is required by statute to do, to DOJ, to defenders, to the Judicial Conference of the United States.
Have there been advancements of human knowledge as to the harms of violent crime?
Not to my knowledge. There's been some advancements of human knowledge in recent years that I regard as very important. That's not one of them, though, Senator.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator